What's good? How you doing? This is H1. We're going to be running it back with another episode talking about chess knowledge, chess wisdom, and chess understanding again. And hopefully everything is correct. I'm up here trying to make sure everything is exactly how I want it to be. Let me see. I'm thinking that's more correct than... Okay. Cool. Is the sound working? Let me see if the sound working. Okay. It may be... Hopefully the sound is working. Oh crap. The mic is probably messing up. Give me one sec. Okay. All right, cool. So everything should be good. Hey Cardu, how you doing? Hopefully you're doing well. Hey, tell me if the music is okay. If the music is okay, then we could just continue on with this chess lesson. What's going on here? Okay. Okay, the sound is all good. All right, let's continue. So in this video, a little Flesco happened in the Discord. Happened. Don't worry though, got it fixed. Only one time out needed. Yeah, the music is great. All right, we can continue. Okay, so this lesson we're going to be talking about the Italian game, how we can use the Italian game for our advantage. Now, most people think that the Italian game is mostly boring, which if you watch grandmasters face off against each other in like those top tournaments, they're like really boring, of course, because they're going to go down the safest lines. But there is a reason why they go down these safe lines instead of the more extreme, sharper or tactical lines, or the lines that are a little bit unsure. So let's just continue on with these games. I'm going to be streaming for about 30 minutes and we're going to see how many games we can get through. So this first game that we're going to be going through is Garry Kasparov against his opponent. We're going to just call him Ortiz because I really don't know how to say his name. I like the C3 main line for the Grinco piano. Yeah, actually, we're going to be going over most of those games with the C3 line. Garry Kasparov started off this game with the move e4. After e4, e5, knight to f3 in this position. Then we have, actually, dang, why is that not pulling up? Pull up! After knight to f3, knight to c6, and for most of you who do not know what the Italian game is, the Italian game is initiated after the move bishop to c4. And you've probably seen this a lot, and I mean a lot. But as a beginner, you probably don't know how to play exactly the best moves in these type of lines or like the strategic elements. Grandmasters know the strategic elements by heart, and that's why that they play, because they get a lot of flexibility. But that's why I'm here, and I'm going to be telling you exactly the differences between how a beginner plays and how these tougher opponents plays. And Swift, hey, how you doing? Facing Garry Kasparov is already losing for the opponent. Exactly. Exactly. And so this game began with the move bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and then we're going through the c3 line that you was just talking about, Cardu. And so after c3, knight to f6, and then we got the move d3. After d3 in this position, which is a little bit more mild than like the move d4, which is a little bit more aggressive, which we will be going over some games that begins with d4, depending on how much time it takes to get through this first game. And so after d3, castle kingside, and then we have the move castle kingside by Garry Kasparov. After castle kingside by both people, then we have the move d6. After d6, bishop to b3, that happens, just avoiding some moves, like first of all avoiding like knight to a5 type of moves that could pretty much trap our bishop a little bit, or that would force us to go bishop b5, and then your opponent's going to go a6, bishop a4, b5, and then they're going to have a lot more space on the queen side. So after the move bishop to b3, we got our opponent pinning our knight to our queen with the move bishop to g4, pinning the knight to the queen. Most like tougher opponents or players like doing an early h3 to avoid this, but back in the day they didn't care at all whatsoever. And so after bishop to g4, h3, The opponent did not keep the pawn with bishop h5, but actually he did the move bishop to d7. And there are ways to get out of that pin, but it takes another sequence of moves that you're going to have to remember if you're playing the Italian game. Most people fall for the old, if the c3 pawn wasn't there, the bishop g4, knight to d4, and then take the knight on f3, doubling up the f2 and g pawn on f3, and etc. But if you're playing an Italian game, you want to avoid that at all costs because you could lose the game very quickly if you do not know what you're doing. And so after the move bishop to d7, we have here, what next? What do we have next? If you're playing the white pieces, if you're Garry Kasparov, what would you do next in this position? How would you begin? What would you do? You're a grandmaster. There are still some pieces that we have not developed. First of all, we haven't developed this knight on b1, or this bishop on c1, or this rook on a1 is getting no love. A lot of people are saying d4, strike in the center. I do get that, but remember, like, in order for us to strike the center, we have to be ready to, like the rest of our pieces have to be ready to. If we strike the center right now and open up the middle, then we're going to be in surprise of all of our opponent's pieces that are developed more than our pieces. So don't do that too quickly. Bishop c2. Yeah, bishop c2 is a good move getting ready for d4 because the bishop would be protecting the e4 pawn. Maybe. No, nothing is a dumb move. Keep on suggesting moves. That's fine. Bishop g5. Oh, bishop c2, b4. Expand it on the queen side. Yeah, there are a lot of flexible decisions that you can do here. Bishop g5, bishop g5. Okay, just to continue, Garry Kasparov actually did the move knight b to d2. After knight b to d2, rook to e8, rook to e1, and you're probably confused, right? Like, why did knight on b1 go to d2? And as beginners, you know, you probably want to put the knight to c3 instead of putting the pawn to c3. But there is a common sequence of moves that you're going to have to remember if you're playing the Italian game and if you want to play the Roy Lopez. And so after the move rook to e1, bishop back to c8 for some reason, and then we got the move what? What is the sequence of moves that I'm talking about when we're playing the Italian game? What would you say? What would you say here? What is the sequence of moves that I'm talking about? Knight to c4. Okay, so this knight could be going to c4, but you're going to be in a rude awakening after the move b5, kicking the knight back to d2, the square that we just came from. Cardu, you are correct. The knight usually goes from d2 to f1. Why go to f1? Well, this gives white flexibility to either put the knight to e3 or to g3 going to, and actually both of these squares actually heads to the f5 square, which could be a big attack on the king side. And so after the move knight to f1, b6 by our opponent, and then we got the move knight to g3. And now you kind of see all the pieces moving to the king side, which can be really dangerous for black if they play inaccurate moves. And so now this forces black to be like on high alert, like, oh crap, Garry Kasparov, like the best chess player in the whole world, because this wasn't back in like his early years. This was only back to 2001. So he was already known as a great player, and he's facing off against his opponent that's like, dude, what's going on here? And so after knight to g3, bishop to b7, like trying to open up that diagonal, maybe, I don't know. But then we got the move bishop to g5. And let me just tell you this, and he's facing like a weak opponent right now. After bishop to b7, this position is already busted for the black pieces. Isn't that surprising? Give me a 1 if you think that's surprising. And give me a 2 if you're like, dude, how? Give me a 1 if you think that's surprising. And then give me a 2 if you're like, how? Like, how? Like, what's going on here? Or actually, does that even make sense? Give me a 1 if you think that's surprising. Give me a 2 if you're like, oh, I know why it's busted. Okay, that's what I meant. Because I got the 1 and 2 mixed up together. I'm dyslexic. Who cares? And so after the move bishop to g5, pinning the knight to the queen, and yeah, black is already losing. And he tried to do the move h6, which is a big weakness for the king side over here. And so after h6, pretty much putting pressure on g5, then Garry Kasparov did the move bishop to h4, not even caring if the move g5 happened. That would trap the bishop on h4 because a big sacrifice would happen on the g5 square. Probably put the queen over here maybe and get a quick attack on the king side on g8. White has way more activity and threats, not really surprising. Yeah, and that fianchetto is weak. Yeah, that fianchetto is weak, and we got our opponent move their bishop multiple times. And if you're a beginner right now, like this is why you don't really move the pieces. First of all, you're not really supposed to move the pieces back unless there's an actual purpose of why you're moving the pieces on the back rank to go somewhere else. And then secondly, yeah, he moved that bishop like 3 different times. It was crazy. And so after bishop to h4 in this position, and then a5 by your opponent, maybe trying to do the move a4 to distract us. And then what would you do next here? And this game actually ends in the next 5 moves. What would be your next 5 moves in this position to make the opponent resign? And you're the best player in the world, so like put on your best player suit, you know what I mean? Knight to h5, okay. So knight to h5, this knight is pinned to the queen. And actually, I'm thinking knight to h5 might, yeah, I think that might still be good. Give me one sec. I don't know why it keeps on doing this. Like my leadchess.org analysis keeps on like resetting how I want it to be. But yeah, knight to h5 is actually still winning. So good job on that one. Knight to h5 is actually still winning. Who was that? Who was that? Ice Lauder Puppies? What's up, man? And we're trying to figure out the best moves for the white pieces at this present moment. And the opponent actually resigned in the next 5 moves. Not d4, because actually in this position, you don't ever have to open up the center. You don't ever have to control the center to realize that, hey, I'm just going to attack my king, not my king, but their king on the king side. How would we start that? What's another move other than knight to h5? Queen d2. Okay, queen d2. Maybe there's going to be some sacrifices on the h6 pawn. I get that. Yeah, swift. And so that's how Garry Kasparov started this attack, with the move knight to f5. After knight to f5, this knight moved to a7. And this is, I really like how the opponent is playing because it gets to showcase how you can attack the king side with the white pieces. And so for all my people who wants to play the Italian game, you know what I mean? This is a good showcase of what you should do if your opponent just does nothing at all to stop you. And so, hey Grizzly, how you doing? Knight to g5. Knight to g, well, not knight to g5 because h pawn can take on g5. We don't want to just give away pieces, even though, you know, do not stop giving suggestions because that's how you get better at chess, figuring out your opponent's or that grandmaster's best moves of the position. And so, what is the next move that Garry Kasparov did here, though? What do you think he did next? And this next move is actually the best move of this position. So queen d2 is still winning. Ice Lauder Puppies and Ron, you are actually dead on and dead correct, because after the move knight to h2, what is the goal? Knight to h2, c6, and then what is the next move by Garry Kasparov? What is the next move? Why did the knight go backwards to what square? Back to f1? Like, where's that knight going? Bishop takes on f6. Not yet, because queen takes on f6, and that might actually turn this to a normal game. Just a little bit. Even though that you have knight to g4, that's giving black too many possibilities to come back. And so Cardew, you are correct. The knight went to h2. Let me move this forward. The knight went to h2 to go to g4, hitting this pin piece on f6. But realize that he had the other knight to hit the pin piece, not this knight going to h5, because this knight on f5 is usually a really powerful piece, and you should understand that too. Like, that's one of like the principles, the chess principles that you have to remember, especially if you're an e4 player. Getting the knight to f5 and vice versa. If black got their knight, if the player with the black pieces got their knight to f4, there could be a massive attack or sacrifices happening in the next few moves. Bruh, it won't send as a whole. What? What's going on? And so after the move knight to g4 and then g5, just overreacting because there was going to be a lot of sacrifices that was going to happen. Possibly bishop takes on f6, g takes on f6. This pawn is already going to be taken. So the opponent just lashed out and did the move g5, trying to stop everything, even though that Garry Kasparov is a really good player, and you're playing the best player in the world right now. Ron minded. Knight to f6, knight g4. Knight g4 is flagged by mods. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, if it's flagged, just make sure that you put a space in between it. I don't know how to exactly not have those being like banned, I guess, in the chat. But knight to g4. After knight to g4, g5, what is the next best move here? Knight takes on h6, and it's with the g knight. And so after knight g takes on h6, king f8, and then what move do we have next that forced the opponent to resign? What do you think? Bad word for you? Yeah, knight g4 is a bad word for me. Oh, Shadow Mysterious got it. He just did the lowercase n. Yeah, y'all tripping. Y'all tripping. Ron, you are correct. After bishop takes on g5, the opponent just threw in the towel because the attack was just so relentless. And just realize something, even with the Italian game, right? And most people like doing the move d4. Even if you do not do d4, you can still get a massive attack on your opponent if they do not do anything at all. And hopefully you can remember this sequence. I will be posting this stream on my YouTube channel called Chess Knowledge with H1. So, you know, if you want to go back and listen to what I was saying about how Garry Kasparov got this massive attack with 3 minor pieces, and you know that the queen was going to come in next, you know, go there and go back into it. And so let's get into the next game in this Italian game series right quick. And this game was actually played in 1966. A question mark, you know, it could have been played somewhere else. And thank you for the follow, Merker Row. Thank you. And so let's continue in this Italian game, Bonanza. You know what I mean? Garry Kasparov pretty much, he was known for treating his opponent like, man, he was known for treating his opponent like literal trash, right? And he was known for attacking them relentlessly. He was basically like Rihanna when she had that song, "You better have my money. I got those shots. Like block, block, block. Pay me what you wanted." And so that's pretty much how Garry Kasparov treated his opponents while playing chess. And so let's start this next game off right quick. What are y'all saying? You in the Discord? Hey, I've never seen that used as a bad word. Is it white or black or yellow or brown? So it's white and black, first of all, and it's going to be white and black as I'm teaching because I'm used to I've been teaching for a decade, and I'm not going to just change colors for y'all just because the colors on my board is yellow and brown. All right. When I'm teaching, when I was teaching in person, I'm used to using the words white and black because the pieces are usually white and black, not yellow and brown. That's just an odd thing to say. Like me saying, well, the yellow pieces, they went E4. Like, come on. Okay, let's get into this next game right quick. This next game started with the move E4. Surprising, right? Because we're going over the Italian game. After the move E4, E5, then we got the move knight to F3, attacking the pawn on E5, and after the move knight to F3, knight to C6, protecting the pawn, and then what move initiates the Italian game? Can y'all tell me right quick? What move initiates the Italian game? A bishop C. Ice. Yeah, King E2 initiates the Italian game. No, it's Bishop C4. We're not playing no Bone Cloud today. And so after the move Bishop C4 that initiates the Italian game, then now we have the move of Bishop to C5. Last time we did the move C3, and that's what we're doing today. That's what we're doing in this game, C3. The Italian game has been played for more than 100 years, a couple hundred years now. This isn't brand new. There's a lot of games that you can look to in the past that goes over the Italian game. And so after the move C3, knight to F6, and then what move are we playing now? We're not playing D3 this time, but what move do you think Dan played? And the player with the white pieces name is Dan, and then the player with the black pieces is named Bernard. Yeah, we're beating up on Bernard. Cardew, Sir Francis, Bacon, hey, thank you, and Swift. Well, not Swift. You're going into like a Evans Gambit type of game, but we're playing the move d4, which actually goes into the second most popular move in the Italian game. And actually, after d4, we got the move e takes on d4. After e takes on d4, c takes on d4, bishop to b4, checking the king on e1. Then we got what move next? What move? In this move that we're going into is the second most popular move. This move that we're going into is the second most popular move in the Italian game. Oops, my fave line, then you normally... So the first most popular move is bishop d2, but we're going into the second most popular move, and Cardu, and actually, hey, Sheikh Zula, hey man, welcome. We got the next move, knight to c3. Now, knight to c3 goes into the Grinco attack. I don't know if you know what the Grinco attack is, but yeah, you're going to find out how powerful it is from this game. And so after knight to c3, and this is pretty much gambiting off a pawn, knight takes on e4, since the bishop on b4 is pinning our knight on c3 to the king on e1 on that a5 to e1 diagonal. And so after knight takes on e4, what do you think white next move is? Which is pretty surprising. I prefer the Vienna. Hey, a lot of people do. That is an easy opening, and I have went over it before. I'll probably want to go over it again on Twitch. Only good move. Yeah, Cardu. Yes, sir. Castle kingside. Not even caring that a pawn was taken, and not even caring that a second pawn could be taken in this position. And so after knight takes on c3, b takes on c3, bishop takes on c3, which is kind of a losing position already. Now, I will say that going into this opening is already busted for the black pieces. Actually, probably not. It depends on the human, right? Because I know that some people can win these type of positions with the black pieces if you're strong enough. But bishop to a3 is just, that's the best move in this position. But in this game, because this was back in 1966, and you're going to have to be mindful that they didn't have chess engines back then, he did the move rook to b1. After rook to b1, and I still want to show you the ideas that happened in this game, even though that wasn't the best move, all right? You don't look at older games back in the 1900s for opening theory. You don't look at older games back in the 1900s for opening theory. You look at those older games for strategic plays and tactics and those concrete moves. And so after rook to b1, castle kingside in this position, and then what do you think was played next? Oh snap, that is actually another embarrassing move. I didn't even see that. Well, hey, we got the move queen d3. After queen d3, bishop to a5 in this position, which is the wrongest move ever. What happens next in this position? Queen d3 was a blunder too, because after queen d3, the opponent should have played d5. But most people get afraid when the opponent starts like sacrificing pieces, and they just decide not to do the chess principle. The best way to defend is to attack. The best defense is attacking. Cardu, you are correct. In this position, bishop g5 is the best move. What's the logic behind rook b1 if the light square bishop? Yeah, there's a rook b1. It's a throwaway move. This was back in 1966 before chess engines. And yeah, it's a throwaway move. I wouldn't even think about it. I'll just throw that move into the trash. But the best move in this position is bishop to g5, hitting that queen on d8. Now, after doing bishop g5, remember, f6 cannot happen. f6 cannot happen because this bishop on c4 is pinning that pawn to the king on g8. So after bishop to g5, knight to e7, trying to defend the queen, not going to queen e8, that will just be hit by rook to e1 anyway. Then we got what move next, which is like a brilliant move, apparently. I'm good at throwing moves in the trash. Exactly, just throw that move, rook b1 in the trash. Hey, Chess Pro, how you doing? We're going through a chess lesson right now. Cardu, you're correct. Rook e1 probably. I'm pretty, well, you gotta be careful of rook e1. I didn't even see that bishop on a5 was there. Dang, that bishop on a5 would be sniping. So there must have been another move if queen to e8 would have happened. That's my bad. But queen to a3 is the best move of this position. If queen to a3 happened, and thank you for the follow, queen to a3 is attacking the bishop on a5 and attacking the knight on e7 twice with the queen and the bishop along the h4 to da diagonal, the queen along the a3 to fa diagonal. And so after queen to a3, rook to e8, defending the knight, and then we just got a free piece. Queen takes on a5. After queen takes on a5, b6, attacking our queen on the a5 square, and then what do you think he did next here? What do you think he did next here? What do you think white did next here in this position? Just to keep the tension on the board. Dang, bro, you are on fleek right now. Queen a5, bishop e7. Who else? Shadow Mysteria. Yeah, is that my Discord? Yeah, that is my Discord. We have like over 2,000 members up in there, just chilling. But queen to a3. Going back to queen to a3. After queen to a3, d5, and then after d5, this game pretty much ended pretty ugly after this next move. What next move happened in this position to make black resign, to make Bernard resign, to be more specific? e5 is wrong because of the fork. What are you talking about? And we're trying to figure out the best moves for the white pieces for everybody who just like influxed in here. We're trying to figure out what should white be doing in this position. This is an old game back in 1966, and this is going to be a lesson on the Italian game. All right, so if you want to go back to rewatch this, you can. The first game was pretty excellent by Garry Kasparov. And so what's going on? What's going on next here? Rook f to e1. Yeah, that could happen. That's winning. Bishop takes on e7. Yeah, the bishop could just take on e7 since we're already up a piece. But he decided to do the move bishop to b5, attacking the rook on e8. And after c6, which is just another horrible move, I'm pretty sure black was just tilted at this point because bishop can just take on c6, which is just not pinning, but forking the rook on a8 and the rook on e8. And so after bishop takes on c6, and then now bishop d7, and then bishop takes on a8, that was just a completely busted position for the black pieces. And that's how easy like you can get a win from the Grinco attack, even though that white didn't play the most accurate moves in this position. Love getting free pieces. Yeah. I love getting free pieces too. And that's what could happen if you like pretty much mentally explode your opponent's mind, which can happen if you put enough pressure on your opponent. And a good way to put enough pressure on your opponent is by being active with your pieces, is by developing all of them, all your knights, all your bishops, all your rooks, castling your king. That's the only way to develop your rooks. You know what I mean? Putting them on open along the open files and controlling the centers. So pretty much controlling the center, because if you control the center, you control the game. And let's go over one more game right quick, even though that this is going to be a little bit past 30 minutes for this stream, but who cares? We're having a good time. We are having an excellent time. And so in this game, we're actually going to be going over kind of like a main line that most people know in the Italian game. And I think that most people think that this line is pretty frustrating when you're playing the C3 main line of the Italian game. So let's go through it right quick. This next game is by Nicholas Rosalimo against Paul Riesman. Paul Riesman. No, it's Paul Riesman. We got an old chessboard, so if anybody's here right now, make sure that you follow so that you can stay notified on these live chess lessons that happen primarily every single day. That's happening every single day, you know? I do this. I just got on YouTube. I just got on Twitch. My bad for mentioning YouTube in a Twitch stream. Does he read comments? Yeah, I read comments. What's good? Paul Riz, man, yeah. Sadly for Paul, he's losing in this game. And so, what happens here? In this position, it started off like this. E4, E5, and then after E5, we're just going to go into the Italian game, knight to F3, knight to C6, defending the pawn on e5. After knight to c6, bishop to c4 initiates the Italian game. After bishop to c4, bishop to c5, and then we got the famous move c3 going into d4 next. What are y'all saying in the chat right now? Y'all are talking a lot. Not mine, apparently. Don't think. What's your elo? Just curious. Okay, my USCF rating is 1800, and my online chess rating on chess.com and leadchess.org is around like 2100 on all-time controls. And so after c3, we got the move knight to f6 by our opponent, attacking the e4 pawn. After knight to f6, what do you think white did next here in this position? What do you think white did next here in this position? And this is the second most popular move. Hey, y'all need to follow him. He is a very good coach. Thank you, D. Thank you. I teach every single day. Will you invite me to your GM crowning ceremony? What the heck are you talking about? D3 is the most popular move. But Sheikh Zula, yep, we're going back into D4. But we're not going to be going into the Grinco attack this time. After d4, e takes on d4, c takes on d4 in this position, attacking the bishop on c5, and then we got the move bishop to b4. So instead of doing the move knight to c3, what is another popular move in the Italian game? What would y'all say for the white pieces? What would y'all do here? And we're on Nicholas' side, even though I like, you know, Paul Risman sounds pretty cool. We're on Nicholas' side. A lot of people saying bishop c2 instead of bishop d2. I'm going to just guess that y'all mean bishop d2. Bishop d2 is correct. And this is actually the main line in the Italian game. After bishop d2, instead of like going for a gambit and like letting our opponent take a center pawn, because you're going to have to be really prepared for that opening, we got the move bishop d2, bishop takes on d2, and then knight b takes on d2. After knight b takes on d2, you're going to have to contend with this move d5, which is pretty powerful and pretty much equalizes the game for black. But you still have some type of advantage in this position. You can still get a win in this Italian game, which most people think that is boring. But it's not boring if your opponent is like messing up, doing blunders. You can definitely harp on a mistake very easily in the Italian game. I'm going to show you how in this type of position. After d5, what happens next? What would you do next in this position after d5 for the white pieces? What would you do next? E5, okay, that's understandable, right? You want to do E5 to attack the knight on F6. I like that move because I am 2400 on, and your coaching is very good, especially from my perspective. Thank you, I appreciate that. E takes on D5. After E takes on D5, pretty much taking the pawn, putting pressure on the C6 knight, but you already know that it's going to be recaptured, and especially by that knight on F6. After knight takes on D5, and then what is usually the next move here? And this is like one of the first, I don't know how beginners learn this first, but this is like one of the first positions that I learned when I was introduced to opening theory. And I'm glad to introduce it to y'all if this is y'all first time. So you said castle king side, castle c4, c5. We don't have a c pawn. What do you mean? Queen e2, checking the king. Ooh, not queen e2. Not queen e2. We're trying to go over the best moves for the white pieces in this game. Nicholas against Paul Risman. The most popular move is, actually, let me put a timer on y'all right quick. There's 20 people in here. I got this sand timer from, you know what I mean? I got this sand timer from Amazon, and I don't really think that it was worth it, but you know, it is what it is. It's pretty cool. I got 1 minute to figure out the best move, or I'm going to shamelessly plug something. I'm looking at the chat right now. C4, C5. Oh, the bishop. You got to use algebraic notation. Unless you meant C4 captures on D5, which that's not the best move here. That's not the move that is played. That's not the most popular move. That does go into like a whole nother variation. Bishop takes on D4. No, no, no. Sir Francis Bacon, you are correct. And so the main move that most masters play is queen to b3, putting more pressure on this knight. And if this knight moves, you know what I mean? That weak f7 pawn is right behind it. So that knight cannot move for the black pieces. And so after queen to b3 and also putting pressure on that pawn on b7, we got the move knight c to e7. After knight c to e7, what is the next move here that we're doing? What would you do here next for the white pieces? You did queen b3. We got the majority of our pieces already developed, other than our knights, not our knights, but our rooks. And so, yeah, Sir Francis Bacon, you are correct. We got kingside castling. Kingside castling. You got to get the king safe before you start having an initiative or being more aggressive in the position. And so after castle kingside, c6 kind of solidifying that knight on the d5 square, being in front of our isolated pawn. And that is one thing to remember in this Italian game, is that we have an isolated pawn. So the more pieces that we exchange, the more we're gonna be like amplifying this weakness on d4, because this is a weakness in the end game. But in the middle game, you're all set. This does give you a lot more space because you got that e5 and c5 spot, you know what I mean? And so black is going to be a little bit passive until you start trading pieces and basically waiting. If you do it correctly, you can win these games very easily. Not every single time, but you know, once you learn, especially if you're a beginner, once you learn what to do in these type of structures, you should be winning the majority of the time. After the move c6, what is happening next here? Chess Pro, you are correct. We got the move rook f to e1. After rook f to e1, castle kingside, and then we got this move a4, which most people might think that this is random, but a4 stops the move b5, and b5 could like move our bishop to like a less favorable square. And so after the move a4, b6, maybe trying to fee and kettle that bishop on c8. And then we got the move, what would y'all do next to put more pressure on our opponent? What would y'all do next? For the white pieces, of course. We got Chess Pro in there. We got f3 to e5. Yep, knight to e5. And make sure for knight you put an N, a capital N, and for king you put a capital K, all right? N is for knight, king is for K. And so after knight to e5 in this position, you know, putting some pressure on the c6 pawn. And you could have did a lot of moves here. Like, for example, let me just show y'all the assortment of moves. You could do h3, rook a to c1, etc. But this grandmaster went for knight to e5, or this chess master went for knight to e5. After knight to e5, bishop to b7, trying to defend that pawn, which is kind of not an accurate move in this position, and you're gonna see why. After bishop to b7, what happens next? What would you do? That bishop on b7 isn't exactly defended, which allows what move? The knight was already defending it. Yeah, the knight was already defending it, but it just solidifies this point right here on d5, because black really wants to trade pieces. That's what I mean. Black really wants to trade pieces. And then plus two, you don't know if c5 would be a good move. Chess is mostly about imagination too. Imagination is like something that you should strive for, because an imagination might come true on the chessboard. Funny enough. And now y'all are correct. We got Ron and Francis in the building with the move a5, which that's why bishop b7 isn't exactly that accurate, because if b takes on a5, queen could just take on b7, which makes that type of structure a weakness in this position. And so after a5, and let me just say this too, even if your opponent does a move that might be dumb to you, you still got to understand what that move, what the purpose of that move is. And so after the move a5, rook a to c8, and then what are we doing next here? For the white pieces, of course. What are we doing next here in this position? a6. a6 would be attacking the bishop, but the bishop just moves back to a8, and where would the follow-up be? Where would the follow-up be after a6? Hey, hopefully y'all hear the music, because I'm vibing. You know what I mean? You gotta, hey, for all my people that's out there, if you don't know how to dance, you gotta at least learn how to do a two-step. You know what I mean? You gotta at least learn how to do a two-step. d2 to e4. Yep, you're right. What? Sphinx? I'm just gonna call you that. Knight to e4. After knight to e4 in this position, queen to c7 is definitely an inaccuracy because of what move? Because of what move next? Because of what move next? This position is already busted because of queen to c7. And not exactly busted yet. It's like 2.6, which could definitely, if you don't do the most accurate moves, it could definitely swing back to black's favor. So, as the white pieces, how can you keep the initiative going? And how can you just keep the aggression going on our opponent? We got the isolated D pawn, and we need to turn that space where we can attack on either the queen side or king side into an actual winning position. Knight e to c3. Well, that would be going back, and there's not really, you just trying to trade pieces on d5. There's not really a purpose there. A takes on b6. Not exactly. Not here. a1 to a4. a1 to a4, and then you might get caught up with b5 in that position. I don't know if that's exactly what you want to do here. Get caught up with the fork. And keep on guessing, keep on going. Bishop takes on d5, rook a to c1. So first of all, this is what happened. After the move a6, hitting the bishop on b7, the bishop moved back to a8. Then this is the main move that we was looking for. Queen to h3. The good thing about having more space is that you're allowed to attack either on the king side or the queen side. You have a lot more flexibility than your opponent if you have more space. And you should just start acknowledging that. If you're seeing that your opponent has a cramped position, be like, oh, let me attack a little bit over here and let me attack a little bit over there. And let me see how my opponent tries to defend both. And so after the move queen h3, because you already know, what's better than one weakness? Two weaknesses. And usually that second big weakness, your opponent cannot defend. After queen to h3, knight to f4, attacking our queen on h3. And then what are we doing next here in this position? Because now this is completely busted. But you're still going to have to find a precise play here. Are you going to play with viewers of stream? Nope, I am not. I have been teaching for the past few streams and putting it on my YouTube channel. I have been teaching. I'm mostly a teacher. I'm not the person that you watch to see people play games. I'm not that type of guy. Actually, I am kind of. I'm everything. I'm the full package. I even have a podcast. All right. I'm a blogger too. Queen to f3, c4, f7. Okay. Queen to f3 to move it, attacking the knight. I get all those moves, but there is one that strikes out more than the others. There is one move that strikes out more than the others. And when you're attacking, it's good to keep that in mind. c4 to f7. Bishop takes on f7. That is a check, but rook could just take on f7. And this knight on f4 is still attacking our queen on h3, which would be a check on our king on g1. So that would be kind of scary. Knight to g5, knight takes on h3. Okay. So the queen move was correct, but we was moving the queen to the wrong spots. Queen g4 is the right spot. Why is queen g4 the right spot? Is because the queen is on the same file as their king on g8, in which now, what moves are available? Knight to f6, checking the king because that pawn is pinned. And the move f5 cannot happen, forking our knight and queen, because this bishop on c4 is pinning that pawn on f7 to the king on that a2 to g8 diagonal. And so after the move queen to g4, knight e to d5, because the opponent wants to do the move f5. And then we got the move, and actually is a small mistake because he should have did the move knight to g5, but he did the move rook to a3, which is an understandable human move to do a rook lift to get this rook to the king side, maybe to g3 to threaten some more threats on our opponent's king. Oh, dang. Man, I'd flip the board over as black at this point. Yeah, I would flip the board too, because once you see all these pieces kind of looming around the king, you already know that you should be in trouble. All right, so after the move rook to a3, knight to e6, which is one of the biggest blunders ever, what happens next? Because after the move knight to e6, there's a sequence of moves that pretty much destroys the black pieces. Calm down, Swift. I'm not trying to get sued, bro. Actually, since I don't have the chat up yet on my screen, there's a comment that said Hans Niemann had a secret trick for black. Hey, calm down, bro. Calm down. I need to like read the chat instead of just like laughing at it. Follow me on Twitch. So after Shadow Mysterious, so you want to do the move knight to f6, but remember this knight on d5 is defending that square on f6. The knight on d5 is defending that square on f6, so that's why we can't do that check yet. But y'all gonna be surprised of how this game ended. Knight to g5. Well, knight to g5, then knight takes on g5, and when we're attacking our king, do we want to trade pieces? When we're attacking our king, we do not want to trade pieces. We do not want to trade pieces. Rook to g3 could be a good strategy. Rook to f3 is another best move in this position. There's actually a few of them, but what is the move that this player done? What is the move that Nicholas did to pretty much emphasize that, hey, you're losing and I'm not? Pretty much. A rook to h3. It could happen. Could happen. All right, I'm going to give y'all 1 minute and then I'm going to move on. Because the only suggestions that we have, let me just read it out. Knight to f6, knight g5, f2, f4, rook h3. We got rook f3, which is one of the best moves, like I said. Rook to g3, and then rook h3. But that isn't the move that Nicholas done here. And like I said before, knight to f6 could happen if this knight on d5 wasn't there. And that's what I mean when I was saying, hey, use your imagination. That would be so great if we could put our knight on the f6 square. That would be so amazing, right? That would be great. I would love that. That would be so amazing. Sir Francis, yeah, Ron, there we go. Bishop takes on d5. Pretty much eliminating that piece first. And now after bishop takes on d5, pawn takes on d5, knight takes on, not knight takes, but knight goes to f6, checking the king on g8. And then after knight checks the king on g8, the king moves to h8. And I'm going to give y'all 1 minute to find this next move, because this next move is pretty wild. And hey, if you find this next move, you are a brilliant chess player. I'm just going to say that. If you find this next move, you are a brilliant chess player. Because, wow. And he would have had to see this move even before he took the knight on d5. So what suggestions do we got here? We got bishop d5, rook c3. Those moves could possibly still be winning. That is true. There is a lot of combinations that can happen here in this position. We got bad news first that says queens captures on e7. I'm gonna think that you did a typo and meant queen takes on e6, which is also winning in this position. Queen takes on e6 is a very humiliating move to the opponent here. But he actually did something else that looks pretty. It looks really pretty. And I don't normally use the word pretty in my daily vocabulary, but it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, the minute is up. A3 to c3. So a3 to c3. Oh, attacking the queen. He did this next move. Queen to g6. Queen to g6. That just makes me want to start just like randomly throwing crap like I do in my videos every single time. It's like, what is going on here? Queen g6 works. That's, hey, if I was the black piece, I'll be like, GG's. See you later, bro. Hopefully I'll never see you ever again. Would this be the time to like, this would be the time to like flip over the board? This is one of those times to do. Just flip over the board and just realize, oh snap, chess isn't for me. Oh crap! And for all my beginners who don't get it, let's go through the moves right quick. Why is my screen black? I don't know. Why is your screen black? Let me check this. Okay, this is just your screen. But after, let's say F takes on G6 happen. What is the moves? Let's go through it first before like we just start. Okay, okay, you're back. Because if what happens after F takes on G6? Let's go through the moves. Because we have to go through the moves to realize how powerful this position is. Yo, Ron, you're correct. Knight takes on G6, and then after Knight takes on G6, H takes on G6 is forced, and then this rook lift, and this is why this is such a human move to do. It's so powerful because rook to H3 is checkmate along the H file, and this knight on F6 is putting in work too, preventing the king from going to G8. So that is checkmate. All right, what's another position that could happen? After H takes on G6, like somebody has already said, you could just do rook to H3 and then that's checkmate. After rook to H3, let's go into the rest of this game. After queen to G6, Queen C2, because his opponent, Paul Rizman, he's an amazing player and he's trying to defend this, which is, I mean, I'm glad that he got this far. But after this next move, he just decided to resign. After this next move, he decided to resign. Why didn't black pawn just take the knight on F6? Oh, because beforehand the king was on G8 and the queen was pinning that pawn on G7, so that would have been a illegal move. That would have been a illegal move. The queen went to C2, attacking our queen, preventing our queen from taking on H7. What happens next in this position? A lot of you want to do knight takes on F7, which could possibly still be winning, possibly, but not. Yeah, which is still winning in this position. What happens next here? Right. Why didn't knight to G8? Knight to G8 is kind of questionable. Knight to G8 is kind of questionable. I don't know. Are y'all thinking about another move than knight to G8? Y'all must be thinking about another move. Queen takes on F7. Queen takes on F7 is, I don't know about that move. White queen takes the pawn anyway. Well, if the white queen takes on H7, this queen on C2 just recaptures back on H7. So I don't know about that move exactly. Okay, now we got this next beautiful move. And Swift, you got it right, which is amazing. If it were me, I'll do H3 to not hang a back rank like I always do. We got this next move, rook to H3, which it's just lights out after doing the move rook to H3. If queen captures on G6, even with this extra move, queen captures on H6, not H6, but G6. Knight captures on G6, F takes on G6, rook takes on H7, checkmate again. Just another pattern on top of all the other patterns that was on the pattern. And this knight is defending the rook on H7, and this knight is making sure the king doesn't go to G8 still, for all my beginners out there. And so after the move rook to H3, he decided to resign because when you're not able to capture your opponent's pieces, what else could you do? If you're not able to capture your opponent's pieces without some repercussion, you're lost. You're done. It's TKO. Thank you for the follow, doctor. TKO. Just give up. What would y'all do if y'all was the black pieces right now? Like, is it justified to like talk smack after being in this position? As I said, Hans Niemann has a check for black. Wow, that was amazing. Wow, this is a great game. Yeah, this is a great game that happened in a Italian game. That is an opening that is known for not having beautiful games like this. But apparently, you can get an attack off in the Italian game if you play it correctly. Yo, man, you laugh a lot. Hey, can I just laugh? Do you not want me to laugh anymore? I'll just stop laughing. And so that was the game that we just went over today. We went over 3 games. We went over the Gary Kasparov game, then Heinzman game, and then we went over the Nicholas Rosalimo game against Paul Risman. And it's not even Paul's Risman anymore. It's Paul Lisman. And so, yeah, no laughing zone. No laughing. Hey, if you're laughing right now, you're not human if you're not you're not human if you're laughing. All right. And so, what's your sign? Man, I'm a Gemini. So you already know that I'm two-faced. Like, why am I laughing all the time when I could just be mad all the time like this? Earlier, after queen to b3 in that line is knight to a5, attacking that queen instead of retreating to knight to e7, an effective option. Well, then it just, actually that goes into like a repetition type of position. And I would have to like set back up the board to actually show you that right quick. Because if they go to knight to a5 in that position, that sets up for a repetition of moves. Like the queen could go to a4. I would have to show you. Give me one sec. And this is why people don't like playing the Italian game, because of this, what I'm going to show you. And this is why grandmasters, man, they ruined chess. The chess engines ruined it, because many good players used to have the fighting spirit, and now they don't. And now they just go for draws on draws on draws. And stalemate and 3-move repetition and crap like that. Okay, so this is what you're talking about. Let's just go into it. This is what you're talking about. Chess ain't what it used to be. Shaking my head. Yeah, go ahead and laugh. Thank you, bro. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. Hey, good game. Okay, so we got e4, e5, knight to f3. This opening again, knight to c6. Let me just show you what he's talking about. Bishop c4, bishop c5, c3. After c3, we got the move knight to f6. And then d4. After d4, e takes on d4, c takes on d4. And then we got the move bishop to b4. After bishop to b4, we got bishop to d2, bishop to d2, bishop takes on d2, knight takes on d2. And then we got this move d5 that equalizes the position for the black pieces. After d5, e takes on d5, knight takes on d5. And then we got the move queen to b3, attacking a knight on d5, putting pressure on him. And so instead of doing the move knight to e7, the one viewer was saying, could he just do knight to a5 to fork the queen on b3 and the bishop on c4, which in this position you could just do queen to a4, and it could be a repetition, you know what I mean, because the knight could technically go back to c6. The knight could technically go back to c6, and then you can go to queen b3 again. But if you want to continue the game, you could just castle kingside and you can get some type of attacking position. Yo, H1, do you know the exact value? No, don't trigonometry. Dude, I'm out of school. That's all you. You finish school, then you could be like me and just say no. If you just want to say no to school, finish school. I live in real life. The only thing I need to know is that I'm making as much money to pay my bills. I'm making as much money to make sure that I feed my kids, to make sure that I'm feeding my family. I don't need to know trigonometry to know how much money I make and all my expenses and to budget. Get out of school. Okay. Let me stop playing. Okay, I really appreciate you taking the time to reset it and show me, even though you're running over on time. Yeah, no problem. Thanks, guys. I already knew that. I just wanted to test H1. Dang, tell my teachers that. Yeah, y'all funny. But anyway, that's the it of this live stream for today. Hey, This is cool. We did an hour lesson. I went over like 30 minutes, but I'm still going to be streaming on TikTok to finish this Italian game type of sequence. And so, hey, you know what I mean? Make sure that you keep on fighting till the end, staying focused in chess and in real life too. So, peace. I'll see you next time. See you tomorrow. See you later, Shadow Mysterious, Swift. Doctor, you listen to my podcast? Wait, whoa. Hey, I do have a podcast. It was just pretty lit. I need to post another one, but there's nothing's been going on lately. This was cool and helpful. Hey, see y'all later.